Okay, good morning, everybody. It's 8:31. We can start the meeting. I hear a little bit of echo. Wait. See, I had to set a bad example, so we'll know what the problem is. I think we're still waiting for a few members to join in. Is there anybody here for public comments? Sorry. Mary Ellen was called.
Doesn't look like there's anyone.
Yep. So maybe before we welcome new members, maybe as a part of welcoming new members, we can do a round of introduction. Anna Gooder, I'm the committee chair. So you want to continue?
Sure. Sarah Calling. I'm with SDOT, Safe Routes to School Program Manager, and this is a newish transition. I started back at SDOT in May, and previously I was in Brooke's position at Seattle Public Schools as the Safe Routes to School Program Coordinator. Pass it to you.
Great. I'm Brooke, she, her pronouns. I am, as Sarah said, the new Safe Routes to School Coordinator, and really excited to meet you all and be here today.
Welcome.
Brooke, your last name again.
Nelson.
Wilson?
Nelson. N as in nothing.
As in Nelson.
Okay, Nelson. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Marilyn.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm a pending appointee for the council.
Welcome.
Welcome on.
And do you want to share a little bit? Is now the time to?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll move into new member introductions and briefly let's take care of it.
Yeah.
Hi.
That's
okay. I'm Ryan Baum. I live in West Seattle, and I'm excited to be hopefully serving here as the bicycle safety advocate. I've been a bike commuter through downtown and SoDo and for about 17 years. And then I have a first grader at Fairmount Park Elementary. So I actually walk to school. I actually don't bike to school because I live about 100 yards from a school. So I'm super fortunate, but I am interested in what we can do both to encourage more kids and parents to bike to school or on their way to work as drop off, and then also ensuring that we have good bike transportation around the schools as well. So really excited to meet you and looking forward to serving.
Margaret, you're the first one on the screen for us.
I'm got a call while we were just talking from Mary Ellen Russell, so I'm gonna see what that is after I introduce myself. I'm Margaret McCauley. I'm a volunteer member, parent of 3 kids in public schools. I'm with Mary Ellen, one of the folks who got the school district active transport coordinator created. So I'm super excited that thank you. To get the district on board, but given the speed with which Sarah's replacement was hired, I think we're all seeing the value of it now, which is really great. I'm super excited for this school year. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess maybe I should say I'm a federal bureaucrat and a licensed professional engineer, so I've got various backgrounds that help me be a on-point advocate.
I'm Marilyn Furman. I'm a community member. I'm the recording secretary. I guess Margaret's the actual official secretary. She does fancy things like annual reports and special letters. So, but I do the daily minutes. And I was a former small business person and a former school counselor.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm late.
Perfect. We're doing introduction.
Sorry, it's been a while since I was here, and the elevators
I don't know, like the L2 versus floor 2. I kept,
Yeah.
which one do I go on?
And you made it.
So hi everyone, Mary Ellen Russell. I've been on the committee for 6 years, over 6 years now. I'm a landscape architect in my professional life, and I've got kids at Eckstein Middle School and Green Lake Elementary. Are you guys any board members?
Yeah.
I'm Ryan.
Nice to meet you, Ryan.
Brooke.
Hi, Brooke. Nice to meet you.
You
So
too.
Brooke's our new SPS coordinator, Safe Routes to School coordinator.
Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm new public.
Yes. Got it.
Who's next? Robin? You have to introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name's Robin. I am an outgoing committee member. I think this is my last meeting, and I have I have kids at Denny and Chief Sealth High School.
And thank you, Robin, for all the years that you've been in the committee and for continuing being on the committee after your term ended until we had other people. Much appreciated. Stephen, you're next on my screen.
Howdy, I'm Stephen Richard, Director of Transportation for Seattle Public Schools. My first year as director, my 1000th year in the department. And my first year on this committee. Who should I call on?
Are you
Fine.
replacing Richard as our committee member?
I am not replacing Richard as the committee member. I am the Director of Transportation, so I am here on my own steam. Richard, I'm not aware if he has a replacement or who is responsible for finding one.
We
Well,
have.
Brooke is joining as an official committee member from SPS, and Yvonne is here as the second member from SPS.
So we don't need to replace Richard, is what you're saying?
No, it's only required to have 2 members from SPS.
Cool.
Fred, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Fred. Fred Young. I'm the Safe Routes to School intern working with Sarah and Diane and Brooke. I've been interning for SDOT for about 2.5 months now, and I'm an MPA student at the University of Washington.
Welcome, Fred.
Thank you.
Yvonne?
I'm Yvonne Carpenter from SPS, and I am the supervisor of the crossing guards.
Diane? Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Sorry, Diane, we can't hear you. We can read your lips, though. Okay.
Okay. Yes. Now, while you figure it out, have 3 people that are not on the committee that are joining us right now. Andrew will be presenting later. Clara and Ryan, if you want to introduce yourself, we're more than welcome. Love to know who's in the meeting.
Hi, everyone. This is Clara Cantor. I'm a community organizer with Seattle Neighborhood Greenways, and I joined this morning because I was interested in the automated enforcement discussion this morning. Happy to be here.
Ryan?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Ryan Packer with The Urbanist, just listening in this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, so we would like to welcome the new members, Ryan, Brooke, Fred. We'll have a new member joining us next month named Kelsey, who was not able to be here. I'd like to repeat and extend our thanks to Robin and Lee for their service on the committee and for their willingness to continue and contribute their time and efforts even after their term ended until we have a full committee again. If now that we have a new SDOT intern, I want to just quickly touch base about the intersection scoring committee and the work. And
yes, so we left it that Diane, and maybe you can help us get this picked up. We thought we had come to a pretty good solution, but we were finding it was taking too much time to score the intersections. So we're looking for suggestions on what is it that's taking so long? How can we speed this along without losing critical information? So I think that's the piece we're waiting for is that input back from SDOT, from you guys, for some suggestions on how we can streamline it a little. And it is important to get it going. Thank you for bringing that up, Noah. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you have this now, or maybe we should just schedule it for next month to talk. You guys could kind of huddle and maybe figure out which piece is taking so much time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we want to, maybe we have a subcommittee looking at it, if we want to take it offline over email so we could come with suggestions and ideas for next meeting.
Yeah. I mean, we have a subcommittee already, yeah. So yeah, if you guys want to just, kind of touch base and look at it again and make a couple of recommendations, that'd be great.
So I would love to continue scoring the committee, the intersections committee.
Yeah, great.
There's a lot of work left.
Yes.
Okay. Marilyn, do you want to talk about the automation?
Can you pull up that PDF or whoever's running who's running here? Can we pull up the
Sarah's running
automated ticket enforcement PDF?
I don't have the agenda up. I think it's actually yours.
No, the PDF that Mary Ellen sent yesterday.
The tabulation doc I made.
But your screen is shared right now?
Nope.
Oh.
I think your screen is shared.
That's not your screen.
No.
Whose screen is shared right now? It's not mine.
I can maybe just jump in and take it over.
It says viewing Walsh
Diane.
Diane's application.
Oh, Diane.
Oh. Well, I think
she may not be meaning to do it, but that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
And I don't
Diane,
think
I don't know if she can hear us.
No, there we go.
I'm taking over, I think.
Okay.
Oh, unless.
There you go. Fantastic. Okay. So as you guys may recall, before the pandemic, we had started tracking these. And initially we were tracking monthly, but then we found that there was just too much variation. There were different numbers of days, so there was a lot of jittering around if you looked at it monthly.
Do you want to take a step
Yes.
back?
Okay. So these are the citations from the school zone automatic cameras, those flashing light ones that are on that you have to go the temporary 20-mile-per-hour zones that are right in front of schools. And some schools just have, signs and cameras, or signs and flashing lights, but some of them have actual cameras, right? So these are the ones that have actual cameras, and they're only on for about an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. So these tickets are generated in a pretty short span of time and only when school is in session. And they only take photos if you're going at least 26 miles per hour, and they issue citations and they record, how much over you're going, but the ticket's all the same, just, it's not graded in any way. So we have been tracking these before the pandemic and, looking for trends over time, trying to see At the time, SDOT had considered this kind of like the final option in terms of traffic control. If we do a bunch of stuff and it doesn't really work, we put these in and we see what happens. And we wanted to track and see, like, are they going down over time? Is it working? And we found a lot of locations, definitely, like the numbers decreased over time. But we also found that there were others where some of them are ultra high and they stay ultra high. And then we also found ones that were kind of interesting where they didn't go down at first and then maybe they'd go down later, or the reverse, they started to trend up. So we were, starting to look at how can we use this feedback loop to see where stuff is still needed, or to maybe look more at like, well, something changed here. They stayed high for a while and then they went down. What changed? But then they were turned off, for most of 2 years. And so and then there was some disruption, we lost our police liaison and we weren't able to get data for quite a while. So thanks to Gary, Officer Davenport, we've gotten the data from the last 2 school years all in one dump, and that's what's in here. And there are you'll see a few places where there is missing info, and a lot of the time, like if you scroll down to Rocks Hill Elementary School on the second page, it's being renovated. So, and there were a couple others like that, like Holy Family, where it didn't quite be eliminated, but it is because they moved partway through the school year. They're changing. But so I just wanted to look at, what's been happening. What I found generally is that you can see there's a big bump in 21, 22. There was definitely more speeding when they got turned back on. People's behavior had changed. They were used to there not being a school and there not being tickets. And you can see that there's a big increase in that initial year, which at most sites went back down a bit in the second year. But what I was looking at is kind of pre and post pandemic numbers. So I looked at this, if you look at the average change, which is the first column to the left, I averaged 21, 22 and 22, 23, and then compared that to the average of the 4 years that we had data for before the pandemic to see what's been happening pre and post pandemic. And there we see that, a lot of them are kind of jittering around, not much change, like Gatewood there, but there are a couple of ones that seem worth highlighting, like that very first one. Olympic View is substantially up compared to its pre-pandemic baseline. And that's not just for a few months, it's 2 full years of data, substantially up compared to 4 years prior.
The actual numbers there, is it monthly average during the school year?
Yeah, that's a monthly average. So that's the total number of violations across 10 months divided by 10. Yes.
And this is total violations, not total tickets paid.
Total violations. This is just looking at whether or not people are speeding.
Mm-hmm.
Funding is a completely separate question.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to kind of just scroll down and we can note a couple of other locations as we go. Another one that's interesting to look at is the rank. The second and third column are the 22-23 year rank and the average rank. So you can see which are the highest number of tickets overall, and whether or not sometimes there's something that happens, there's a little anomaly, so that's why I look at, like, just put the average rank in there as well. So we can see that, again, Olympic View has substantially increased in terms of number of tickets, right? And its rank has gone quite a bit up as well. And then as we scroll down, interestingly, northbound and southbound Greenwood Avenue are diverging. Mm-hmm. The southbound is way up and the northbound is way down. So that one seems, I don't know, would you guys be able to just like look and see if any, what is there, why are 2 sides of the street? Something has to have changed, because the southbound has always been higher, but not as much, and for one to be going up and one to be going down, it's very strange.
Topography has changed? Now the hill is different? Just kidding.
Let's see.
Or maybe there was a big construction project that slowed down
that slowed
the south.
side. maybe it could be something like that.
Can't
Yeah.
think of what it would be.
And then, oh, a couple I wanted to look at, if we scroll down a couple of pages, so Foreign Avenue South.
Bailey Gatzer.
Bailey Gatzer, yep. I mean, that one is great to see that downward trend there, but that's one that's been one of our highest. You know, you can see these absolute numbers are very different from some schools. But an average of 492 and then 391. So that had one of the worst spikes. I guess not. No, it's continuing downward. It's just still very, very high. Some of these other sites are only getting 58. And again, these are all like problem locations where this was considered as an end intervention. So it's some of these seem rather low, but then some of them are immense. Yeah. And then Montlake Elementary is another one that, I mean, we definitely see the success of the program there. If you look at the numbers in the first couple of years when it started, like that 24th southbound 24th Avenue East, 1,026 tickets a month the first year. So that's, you know, we see it's cut in half, right? So definitely successful, but again,
It's still a very problematic location.
very high. Yeah. And then Mercer Middle is one that is also very high. Although I think this, unfortunately, we're seeing big decreases, but I think this is because they've moved the school now in this last year. Is that right? Or is Mercer still there?
It's fully torn down, but they just tore it down.
So this
a month ago. So does this include?
Oh, so they just tore it. So it went through the end of the school year last year, and they were still there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's fantastic then. Then we are seeing some big gains there.
Wasn't that the area that didn't get reductions, and so they had a street improvement thing to modify the traffic pattern so that it would, the entrance was right off the freeway and they really needed to modify it? And that modification obviously worked.
Yeah.
And so our traffic thing showed the people there that why they had to do that it wasn't going down. And so these statistics caused them to accept the change in the street construction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a big project along 15th. And there was some community opposition, and Marilyn went to the community meeting and showed them this, you know, where we were before was this 800 a month number, and that really helped get people on board. And so that's great. We're at, you know, just over half that number, but again, you know,
still alive.
Not where we want to be. Yeah. And then there's something odd happening at northbound 35th Avenue Southwest, Our Lady of Guadalupe, which is a Catholic school. It doesn't have numbers that are shocking in absolute terms, but they've gone from an average of like 30 a month to 186. So that's a really big increase.
I live like 4 blocks from there.
Yeah. Have you seen a change there?
There's been no change in years. The only thing that changed is that that was backed up with the West Seattle Bridge closure, because that was a main route, more main route out south of West Seattle. But I mean, it's challenging because 2 lanes go to 1 right before the camera out of the light. So you'll see people try and get ahead of one another, and then they immediately run into the school zone. So you'll see people speed up and then immediately slow down, but they'll run right through it.
Do you think that, you know, the West just increased traffic? The West
but I can't think.
Could be I mean, these, you know, we don't usually see like.
Yeah, I can't think of why it would close.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna scroll up to see the years.
Oh yeah. They're at the top of each page, yeah.
So West Seattle Bridge was 2020.
No,
but
so
they
it's
weren't.
the most recent 2 years. It's before the pandemic, it was jumping around a little, but an average of about like 30, 35. And then in the most recent 2 school years, the 21, 22, it was 290, 22, 23, 186 a month. When did the West Seattle Bridge reopen? That was spring last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
September last year.
So
but a
So
year
it
ago.
could just be road rage thing.
Yeah. Well, and just the dramatic increase in traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so then maybe, we just need to just see if it goes back down now. Hopefully it will.
And
The other thing that changed there is West Seattle Elementary was gone,
Went over to Schmitz Park.
right, and now just moved back,
Oh, really?
which is like 2 blocks off of that street.
Yeah.
but it
But there
increases
was,
traffic.
yeah, obviously it changes traffic patterns when the school's open versus when it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it was open in like 2008.
Yeah, I know. That's why. Yeah.
Okay. And then if we scroll down to the bottom, there are several new locations, and I'm wondering if Sarah or Diane, if you know, they're not listed as beacons as the temporary ones. And I know we were looking at placing some new cameras, and I just wasn't sure if these are permanent cameras or the temporary trial ones that they put out sometimes. We've got quite a few of them.
I believe these are all permanent.
All new permanent ones.
Yeah, Andy, you're here. Feel free to correct me, but I think these are all permanent cameras.
Right.
And I want to flag the Mount Lake Elementary
Yeah.
that is right next to the on-ramp, off-ramp, which, we've been having discussions about those schools in those on-ramp, off-ramp, and don't have time for that right now. Maybe next month we'll talk about, we did a walking tour of 2 schools, and we had all those people together, and now what? Like, how do we keep the conversation going and make sure that people will follow up on the recommendations they received? But that's set point. It's actually a great transition to Andrew's presentation.
Yeah. Well, there's one last thing I want to say, which is just to point out, SDOT does a great analysis of this camera info every year, but they don't pull out the data by site in any way. And I just have to say, I find that really diminishes its usefulness, because you're looking at some sites that have an average of 500 a month and others that have an average of 30. So the overall program, like, has it gone up by 5% or down by 5%? It's really masking a huge amount of variability in what's happening at different parts of the city.
Yeah, thanks for doing that analysis.
Do you have it as an Excel?
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah, sure.
Andy, if you want to go ahead and share your screen if you're ready to start.
Yeah, let me get it pulled up here. All right, is everyone able to see?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Well, good morning. Thank you, committee members, for having me. My name is Andy Merkley. I am a traffic engineer with the Seattle Department of Transportation Operations Division. And I'm here to present on SDOT's response to the statement of legislative intent pertaining to the expansion of automated enforcement programs, and specifically the school zone program. So as we dove into developing a response to the statement of legislative intent, we kind of centered our efforts on our core values and goals, namely equity and safety. In kind of a 2-part request. The first part requested an implementation plan for the doubling of the school zone camera program And that plan included an analysis of race and social justice, and then also the anticipated budget impacts and changes needed to administer the expansion. The second part of the request, which I'll briefly touch on today, requested an evaluation of the costs and benefits for expanding other types of automated traffic safety programs allowed under state law. So the school speed zone enforcement camera today already got a really great lead in, but we have 19 active locations with a total of 35 permanent or fixed cameras in those locations. And those locations were selected based on the Safe Routes to School annual or regular evaluation of the school zone speeds through traffic data collection. And those zones with 85th percentile speeds of over 30 miles per hour have been prioritized for speed reduction mitigations, generally speaking. So one of our most effective speed reduction tools, aside from automated enforcement, is flashing beacons. And we found that flashing beacons alone can reduce 85th percentile speeds by up to 5 miles per hour. So after those flashing beacons were prioritized to be installed in these high-speed school zones, speeds were evaluated again to see how they're performing. And if any of those beacons were not having as much of an intended benefit as we were shooting for, then automated enforcement cameras were further considered. So when the city goes to pursue the installation of cameras, it's a partnership between SDOT and the Seattle Police Department. The police department contracts with our automated enforcement vendor, Vera Mobility, and SDOT works with the two parties for almost all activities from site selection through engineering and design, and then permitting, construction, and the ongoing administration of the program. So in those 19 locations that we currently have photo enforcement within in Seattle, we found that they pretty drastically improve safety and reduce speeds. Although, of course, it varies from location to location, as we found a few minutes ago. Overall, over the course of the program, we found that during all times a day and an average across all locations, that there's been a 50% drop in total collisions, including bike and ped collisions during all times a day. And then more specifically, during those enforced periods during the arrival and dismissal school times, there's been a 71% drop in total collisions. So as we went to develop the list of locations included within the SLI response to double the program, we used a three-step methodology to identify those areas. First and foremost, you need to identify those school zones that have the greatest need and stand to gain the most safety benefit from automated enforcement. So looking at the traffic data that is collected in all the school speed zones, we prioritize those with the highest arrival and dismissal 85th percentile speeds. Then, of course, we want to confirm the presence of the flashing beacons and ensure that they alone did not have the desired effect or enough of the desired effect to reduce speeds to a more adequate threshold. And if speeds were still high, then we'd further apply the third step, which is to take a look at equity. We use the city's Composite Racial and Social Equity Index, which is an index that aggregates a number of factors, demographic factors and otherwise, by census tracts. And then the index divides all of the census tracts into 5 overall categories of equity. So we did this by we applied this index by using the transportation equity work groups within SDOT recommendation to equitably distribute cameras. And the recommendation to do so was to achieve a more even distribution across the city. So on this next slide, you'll kind of see how the existing 19 locations are distributed around the city. And it's very clear that the highest disadvantaged equity categories and the second highest category have the majority of cameras. So it's pretty lopsided. So to incorporate SDOT's Transportation Equity Work Group's recommendation, we prioritize those highest speed school zones in the lower equity categories. So when looking at the potential locations, you'll see that's offset in the lowest disadvantaged, second lowest, and middle categories. In order to achieve this more even distribution across the city, that meant not identifying potential enforcement locations within 14 school zones, high-speed school zones, and the highest disadvantaged and second highest equity categories. So those locations would be referred to the Safe Routes to School program to identify and program other speed mitigation engineering treatments so that equity is not left behind in those school zones, can also achieve speed reductions through this overall effort. So lastly, when you look at the existing and potential number of locations by equity category, you can see this achieves a much more even distribution. So when looking at this same set of data, but broken out by council district, you can kind of see some similar trends. Council districts 1, 2, and 3 are currently overrepresented by automated enforcement, and the potential locations offsets that by proposing a higher number in council districts 4, 5, and 6. Obviously, the glaring outlier here is in council district 7, where there are no existing automated enforcement locations, and none were listed as potential locations either. And there's a couple of reasons for this. One, there's just fewer schools in council district 7. However, there is one school that may qualify for automated enforcement, but it doesn't currently have flashing beacons, and that's Our Lady of Fatima in Magnolia. I believe the 85th percentile speeds in their highest speed school zone were around 30 miles per hour. So beacons alone may effectively reduce speeds to a more appropriate level. So this location could be referred to the Safe Routes to School program to look at prioritizing those improvements as well. So next, kind of looking at what the schedule would look like to deploy a doubling of the program. This illustrative schedule shown here highlights a 14-month duration from design, kind of where we would begin today, if we began today, and through construction and activation. The council budget action, which spurred us looking at doubling the program, requested completion of the expansion by the beginning of the 2024-2025 school year. And this illustrative schedule shows if we started last month that we would kind of barely make it in time to complete the expansion by the beginning of the 2024-2025 school year. However, if the effort were funded and we were directed to proceed with the expansion, there's still a number of risks associated with each of these milestones that would likely cause some of the locations to be delayed beyond that kind of 14-month schedule. So when looking at the costs associated with the program, there's kind of two broad buckets of costs. There's the ongoing costs associated with operating the program and the cameras themselves, and then there's the upfront costs of identifying the locations and then having them permitted and constructed. So this table summarizes the ongoing costs. The costs are approximately $66,000 per camera per year. The majority of which is the fee that the Seattle Police Department pays to our vendor to operate the cameras. It's a flat fee per month, and it amounts to about $50,000 per year. And then the other two broad categories of expenditures are those incurred by SDOT and SPD for program administration. So that could be coordinating with crews and the vendor for maintenance, communications costs, and then kind of ongoing performance evaluation as well. And then lastly, the Seattle Municipal Courts and SPD incur costs on a per violation basis associated with the violation review and then facilitating those citations through the courts process and fee collection. So the other side of expenditures or costs needed to double the program is the upfront costs. And it's estimated that SDOT would require about $400,000 to support a doubling of the program, and SPD would require about $100,000 to support the doubling of the program. And then once the cameras were installed, SDOT, SPD, and the municipal courts would all combined require about $2.5 million annually to operate the new locations. So as those three departments operate the program out of the School Safety, Traffic, and Pedestrian Fund, or SSTPI fund, that program or that fund would need further budget action to support an expansion.
Can you explain, the tickets bring in money? Those costs, I'm confused.
Right. However,
to date, program.
Oh, sorry, I missed that last bit.
Yeah, I'm just not understanding the slides. They bring in money. So you're saying that this money is needed to be allocated to expand the program, you know, needing to pay for on an ongoing basis for each camera, but they bring in funds.
Right. Yeah, it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg situation where City Council would need to appropriate a budget to support the expansion before we start receiving those increased revenues. And then there's also a bit of a delay from when we start receiving the citations or events collected by the cameras, and then reviewing the violations, and then facilitating fee collection through the courts process.
Do you have any estimate?
Right.
So do you have any estimate of when those fees are going to start offsetting the costs?
I don't have that estimate, so I wouldn't be able to provide that. But you know, I think we could get that answer from the courts, from SPD and the courts, as far as kind of what that typical delay is. SPD is required to review any citations collected within a 14-day period. So that's what their kind of timeline is. And I don't have information about what the courts process is like. There's obviously a number of different ways that fees can be collected and timelines that fees can be collected on through the courts process. But we could follow up with the committee on that.
Merlin, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I'm curious. The last slide said $66,000, $66,300 for operation, and this slide says 2.5 million for operation. So I'm not quite understanding how that goes together.
Sure. So a doubling of the program would mean, you know, we currently have 19 locations with 35 cameras. So a doubling would mean another 19 locations with approximately 35 cameras. Some locations would warrant having 2 cameras in either direction, or even if it would warrant it, it may or may not be feasible from an engineering perspective to have 2 cameras per location. So that $2.5 million comes from the $66,000 per camera times approximately 35 to 37 cameras.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah, I guess I'm just, because we're seeing a slide that says after implementation. So after those upfront costs, SDOT, SPD, and SMC will require about $2.5 million annually to operate the new enforcement locations. But I mean,
500K plus 66 per camera.
Yeah, I understand. What I'm confused about is that we're doubling an existing program, so we should have, you know, really good information about how much money it takes to operate it, and it generates revenue. So they don't need to allocate 2.5 million annually to support this.
So my understanding, and I don't think we have any representatives from our finance administration or the central budget office to be able to speak better to this. But my understanding of the general process is that there's kind of 2 sides to the city budget. There's the authority to spend money, and then there's the revenue that backs it. So certainly over the course of time, this expansion would very likely be a revenue positive expansion. However, there is a period at the beginning where you'd have a dip of negative revenue. You'd be spending more money than you're taking in. And that's where the city council's appropriation to spend money up front comes in. And that's,
gotcha. That makes sense. Thank you.
Quick follow-up. Understanding the appropriation and budgeting process for this, right, and you'd allocate appropriately. I think one thing that would be very helpful is understand is like, do we in general believe that the existing cameras are self-funding? Right?
Our experience thus far has been that it is a revenue positive program. Our goal, our very, very top primary and really only goal is to improve safety and to get people to stop speeding. So our goal is to have this not be a revenue positive program, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yes. I mean, 'cause you need about 300 tickets a month to pay for the ongoing costs.
Yeah.
Right, that's the rough.
They're substantially
paid tickets
in excess of that. I mean, it funds other improvements to the tune of millions of dollars a year. So I don't think there's, unfortunately, we're not in danger of these being money losers anytime soon.
Yes.
But that's also
that'd be great. If there are money losers, but
okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's.
All right. So aside from the fiscal constraints associated with or potential fiscal constraints associated with the expansion, we've also identified constraints with staffing, both on the police department side and the municipal court side. The police department currently utilizes light duty officers and overtime to review violations. And with the current volume of violations coming in from the automated enforcement cameras, they're maxed out through these conduits. SPD estimates they'd need about 4 to 5 additional officers fully dedicated to the review to support both that existing volume and then the volume that we'd anticipate with potential expansion. The municipal court system also, of course, would increase or would have an increased demand and would likely need additional staffing resources to meet that demand. So the slides I've talked about thus far pretty directly speak to the first part of the SLI request for the expansion of the school speed zone program. This slide starts to get into the second part of the request of other types of automated enforcement. So as of last week, the City Council and the Mayor's Office passed Council Bill 120625, which allowed for use of new types of automated enforcement in Seattle, and all of them are full-time automated speed enforcement in certain types of zones. These zones were previously but newly allowed under state law, and they include speed enforcement in school walk areas, public park speed zones, hospital speed zones, and then various types of speed zones as identified through safety plans, or those identified with high rates of collisions, or those in zones designated by local ordinance as a racing zone. As all of these are speed enforcement or forms of speed enforcement, we would expect a similar safety improvement if they were enforced compared to the statistics we've seen in the school speed zones, since there was a little bit of a delta in safety performance between those enforced times in school speed zones and unenforced times. We could also draw the conclusion that full-time speed enforcement would maybe have a slightly higher safety performance than those we've seen in school speed zones. So with all these findings, we included 5 recommendations in the Statement of Legislative Intent response. And the first of which is to extend the school zone expansion schedule. The council budget action asked us to complete an expansion by the beginning of the 2024-2025 school year. And although it might be possible if we began today to complete some locations within that time frame, it's highly unlikely that we'd be able to complete all of them due to the number of risks in each of those activities needed to complete the expansion. Secondly, we have identified and reiterated many of the kind of structural staffing issues that have been noted in SPDs and municipal courts organizations. And since the statement of legislative intent response was transmitted to the City Council in August, the city has started exploring potential legislation in Olympia with the state legislature that would expand authority to review citations by those other than in SPD's commissioned police officers. The third recommendation is, which was already essentially been taken care of, is staff is recommending that legislation be passed to allow the new forms of photo enforcement that were allowed under state law, but not Seattle Municipal Code. And again, that council bill was passed last week. Fourth recommendation is that we need to continue community engagement activities and education activities to better inform our internal processes within SDOT and SPD on the administration of photo enforcement programs. SDOT has engaged with community organizations in South Seattle and is planning on engaging in similar organizations in North Seattle to kind of better inform any future expansions or ongoing administration of the programs. Lastly, and closely related, we've identified that we need a holistic policy for the administration of the automated enforcement programs, or the program as a whole. It became clear that we need to center SDOT's work consistently across the types of automated enforcement to center our TEF tactics and TEF values, or transportation equity framework, on transportation justice and, of course, safety. The policy will include topics such as site selection, of course, prioritizing those locations that stand to gain the greatest safety benefit, equitable siting, and how equity is looked at as when it comes to distribution across the city and siting. The policy will address complementary non-enforcement countermeasures, either implemented concurrently with any deployment or in advance of. And then lastly, the policy will address signage, advanced warning signage standards, as well as ongoing performance evaluation, and potentially laying out a path forward to deactivate a camera if we feel that the location will have adequate safety performance without it. So all of these topics are certainly within the purview of SDOT, which is why this would be an SDOT policy. And we intend to have this policy developed by mid-2024 to help guide any future ongoing administration or future expansions. We have, however, through our community engagement and work with the Transportation Equity Work Group, received feedback that there are needs outside of SDOT's purview for policy review and development. And that includes topics such as looking at existing fee structures and maybe developing income-based means for penalty reduction or alternative types of penalties. There's also been the need identified for revisiting funding, programmatic and revenue structure within SPD and SDOT to reinvest in safety programs and education. And again, while SDOT can participate in these conversations, many of those aspects are kind of outside of SDOT's purview. So it would need to, or that effort would require a much broader multi-departmental approach. So if the school speed zone camera program were funded and staff were directed to proceed with the expansion, the automated traffic enforcement camera program, the Vision Zero program, and the Safe Routes to School program will all coordinate to identify the funding, the programming, and implementation of those complementary countermeasures that we identified the need for in those highly disadvantaged areas with high speeds, those 14 locations. Yeah, so that concludes my presentation. I'll kick it back to the committee to pose any questions or comments.
Merlin, you had your hand up?
Yeah, back to your equity. As an elementary school counselor, one of the problems were parents in jail for traffic violations they couldn't pay. Is this part of what you're working on with your different fee structures? How do you deal with the highly disadvantaged communities that simply can't pay traffic tickets?
So that is one of those equity concerns that certainly need to be addressed and requires further conversation, but are kind of outside of the purview of SDOT. I think we need to engage the municipal courts, the Seattle Police Department, and our law department to look at, what ways can we equitably ensure that these cameras are not having a disproportionate negative impact compared to the safety benefits that they're providing to disadvantaged communities. It's a really challenging topic, and we certainly intend to support, the future discussion to further those ideas.
I have a question. You said at the end, if this expansion moves forward, but I had understood that City Council had already directed it, to move forward, and the question was is just whether or not the timeline can be met, with the answers, appearing to be no. But you were just suggesting that maybe it's not moving forward. Can you speak a little more to where that uncertainty is coming from?
It's really completely from funding, really. City Council has not allocated that additional $500,000 for the upfront costs associated with the expansion, or the $2.5 million associated with the ongoing increased costs.
Got it. But those ongoing increased costs, it's the upfront costs, right? There aren't $2.5 million for ongoing increased costs a year, because this is bringing in more money than it costs.
Well, it's still costing $2.5 million, but presumably there'll also be that $2.5 million of increased revenue backing those costs. But the authority for the city to spend that $2.5 million to pay the vendor and support the internal costs would still need to be appropriated within the budget.
Any other questions?
I did kind of want the group to pause on one of your recommendations that you mentioned, Andy, and that was it's a state level change that would need to happen for it to not be police officers that have to review. And it does seem like staffing, like whether we have the cameras or not, we know that staffing is a limitation. And so that could be something that the committee considers seizing on.
Yeah,
and my understanding is that there's some questions about the interpretation of the law, that there is already the authority of SDOT to have people that are not sworn officers to review it. So and maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but my understanding is that there's some need to align policies and understandings in a higher level between legislator and SPD about who can review tickets.
Yeah. So, and that was one of our recommendations that we just made in our annual reports. We're completely on the same page. Andy, do you know who in the city, who should we talk to in this? Who's leading this effort to, align city policy and to speak to state legislators? We'd like to talk to them so that we are also advocating the same things that the city wants in regards to that.
Yeah, so this is a topic that's also one of those multi-departmental efforts where a number of internal stakeholders need to be involved. So on SDOT's part, Bill Laborde is our council liaison and has been coordinating closely with SPD's law department and our broader city law department to work through some of those legal interpretations about what is or is not allowed. State law requires that a law enforcement officer review the tickets. And there's been some discussions about changing that term within state law to allow other types of staff members to review tickets. And admittedly, that is outside of my area of expertise. But yeah, I guess to directly answer your question, Bill Laborde is SDOT's point of contact.
Can you spell that name?
Sure, I'll put it in the chat for you.
And
okay, thank
Dan
you.
and Sarah, would you mind doing some digging and see who else in the city is in charge of those kind of conversations? Just that we'll be able to direct any kind of formal letters of support to them.
Right. Bill Laborde is great.
Okay.
And yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that
So just-
he'll be a great contact. But yeah,
Okay.
feel free to let us know if there's ways that we can help facilitate.
Yeah. Okay. We are running over time, so I want to wrap this up. And thank you, Andy.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Hi. Is this a good place to sit? I know. Can people online hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear whoever's talking.
Okay.
Right. Well, while I set up, I'll briefly introduce myself. I know a couple of you here. I'm Serena Lehman. I work at SDOT with Sarah, among others, and I work in the Finance and Administration Division, though I can't likely go into the details of questions that you all were out just asking. But I'm the project and portfolio management team manager, and what that means is I oversee the kind of the monitoring and tracking of our Levy Move Seattle, which I'm here to talk about today, as well as I work with our project delivery to ensure that we're highlighting risks and ensuring our projects are on track. And is it best if I log on so folks online can see my face? Yeah. And so while I'm doing that, and before I get started, I know you all know Sarah, but I'd like her to introduce herself, because well, I get to right now go and talk about all the great things the levy's done. I'm not actually the one doing them. There's people like Sarah and Diane and Ashley, other people that you all know who are doing this fantastic work. So I maybe gave you, anyway, if you could introduce yourself.
It's really Ashley who gets the credit. I just started in this role. But yes, Sarah Collins, Safe Routes to School Program Manager.
Right.
And Ashley Reed was the person in this position before me, and now she's my boss, so still involved.
Well,
Yeah.
and Serena was the SDOT liaison to this committee years ago.
Yeah, it was 6 or so years ago. So it's nice to come. I don't know if I've had an opportunity to come back and present to this group since. So it's nice to see you, Margaret. It's nice to see you, Marianne. It's nice to see you, Yvonne. I haven't seen you in a very long time. Okay, so let me make sure I have the right one. Bear with me. Oh.
You scroll down, there's a join. Yeah.
You.
Florian, do you want to share your screen so you can control the speed of your slides? Or not?
I could also.
If you could share yours. Sure. Oh, are you sharing the screen?
No.
Oh. Are you sharing the screen?
can.
Yeah, if you could do the slide, since it's making me log in and join.
Great.
Okay.
I just might need you to send me the latest.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay, I can. It was just up on the screen.
Oh.
Dan, were you sharing the screen?
Oh, I see. Oh, Diane sent this to me. I have it.
Oh, she's there.
Again, unmute.
You unmute Dan.
I've got it. I'll pull it up. Sorry.
You might not get to see my face, everybody online. My computer does not seem to know who I am right now. And see, it's Friday, it's tired, so sorry, everybody. Yeah,
There's it up. Thanks.
You can see the slideshow, so that much is good.
Sorry about that. I see a success. Okay, so I know that you all are running well behind on time, and So I'll move through these slides really quickly. As I mentioned, I'm here to talk about where we are with the Levy to Move Seattle. And so next slide, please. So, you've met Sarah, you've met Ashley, you've met me. I think one thing that we're doing is the Levy to Move Seattle is a property tax levy that passed back in 2015, and it's a 9-year levy. It's about $930 million. And we're wrapping up year 8 of the levy. And so we're going out as we're ending this levy and meeting with all of our modal boards to talk through kind of what we've accomplished to date, what's coming up, and answer any questions. Again, I'm going to be talking really high level about what we've done and how this relates to Safe Routes to School. If you're interested in programmatic details or questions about projects, I will defer to Sarah, because Sarah, Ashley, their team are the ones who know the details. I just get I get the fun part of getting to report on what we've been doing. So, the Levy to Move Seattle, these are supporting investments across the city for both walking, rolling, and biking. We're on track to meet our levy goals for the Safe Routes to School program. We've already completed the goal of 171 projects. We still have 12 more specific schools to go, and we'll get a little bit more into that later. And then we've also done a whole lot more that, while maybe not directly a school project, improves access to schools, including 24 major transportation corridor projects with new crosswalks, beacons. We've added 131 crosswalks throughout the life of the levy, and we've repainted 1,500 crosswalks annually. We built 205 blocks of new sidewalk, which is very exciting. And then we continue to work on our stairways. I know that as a parent, I use the stairway up on Beacon Hill to get to my school up at Beacon Hill Elementary, and having those improvements are key for access. So next slide, please. So I'm going to move through this pretty quickly. If you don't have access to this presentation, I can make sure that it gets sent out afterwards, but I'm going to really briefly give you an orientation on what the Levy to Move Seattle is, and what our programs and categories are. I'm going to talk about how our levy programs support biking and walking and rolling to school. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the levy's impact on student safety and mobility. At the end, we have some Q2 highlights about the whole Levy to Move Seattle. I'm not going to talk about that today unless we really want to get into it, but we want you to all be able to have that for reference if you're interested. But if you're looking and you have questions, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to various team members. So next slide. So in our Levy to Move Seattle, we have 3 broad categories, and this includes safe routes. So this includes things like our programs like Safe Routes to School, our Vision Zero program, our bicycle program, as well as our transportation operations program. That includes like remarking crosswalks and replacing signs. Maintenance and repair is our second major program, and this includes things like paving, those we think of as maintenance and repair, stairway rehabilitation. And then our congestion relief program, this is the one that's the largest and probably the most confusing for everybody I talk to about what's included in this. The aim of this is to enhance transportation choices throughout the network. And so this includes programs like our Madison Rapid Ride project that is currently under construction. So that's improving our bus service and access to transit. It also includes programs like our East Marginal Way Heavy Haul project, which is happening down in SoDo, and it's helping with freight traffic as well as safety. It's installing a new bicycle facility. And then it also includes things like ITS, our Intelligent Transportation System, which has a lot to do with signals. So it is a big category, and it's the largest in terms of our funding. Lesson learned going into our next funding package, whatever that looks like, is that this category continues to be confusing for everybody, and we're working hard to be a little bit more transparent and specific about what those programs mean. Next slide. Okay. So we have our big 3 buckets, and then we have 30 programs. And these programs are which we at SDOT are measuring success. And we have what we call like widgets or like check goals that we're trying to achieve with all of these specific programs. Safe Routes to School has the goal of completing 9 to 12 Safe Routes to School projects each year, as well as targeting a handful of schools within the first few years of the levy to target improvements. Most of those fall into areas, fall within like higher need, higher equity areas. And so I'm not going to go through all these programs, but we basically, by each program, we have a specific goal that we're trying to meet, and we're measuring our success based on what was outlined by what was adopted by City Council. Next slide. So I'm going to now just really briefly walk through our programs. The programs that are in bold are the ones that we believe are the ones that are having the largest impact on access to schools. And so, obviously I've mentioned our safety corridors, which is also what you think of when we think about Vision Zero, safe routes to school, signs and markings. And so some pictures on the right are examples of what these programs are doing. So there's someone getting some crosswalks remarked. There's a new signal crossing at Eastland and 24th Avenue East. There's a new crossing installed by Ballard High School. And then the South Delridge project made numerous improvements across the corridor. Next slide. Okay, so we're just going to pause again, coming back to what our goal is specifically for Safe Routes to School. So we said in our legislation that we were going to do 9 to 12 projects each year, which is about 171 total. We've achieved the 171 total. We've actually completed 177. However, we do still have 12 more schools that we need to target, because we also wanted to do it not just 9 to 12 projects per year, but we wanted to touch every school in the city by the end of the levy. So if you're curious, I can give you the list of what those remaining 12 projects are, but we're on track to hit that goal by the end of next year. And all those elementary schools that I named at the beginning that we're supposed to complete from the first 3 years, we have completed that. Next slide. So we wanted to pause and spotlight a key project that you may have already heard about, but was recently completed at Wing Luke Elementary. And maybe, Sarah, can I turn over to you to tell kind of, and if you're not prepared to,
sure.
I've write some notes. Yeah.
No, I'm always happy to talk about this Wing Luke project.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone has seen this in person. It's kind of tucked away in South Beacon Hill, and also along the Kenyon Avenue South neighborhood greenway. So this, you can see in this before photo, there was 0 sidewalk here, and this is the hill leading right up to Wing Luke Elementary, which is in our tier 1, SBS's tier 1 for equity needs schools. And so this was a huge capital project that came out of Safe Routes to School that Ashley developed, and yeah, it was just opened up right before school got out this year. And you can see it includes a new sidewalk, but it's a lot more than that. That after picture shows how wide that sidewalk is, and so it works as both a sidewalk but also a bike connection too. And we do have some kids that bike to Wing Luke, and so they're using this new sidewalk. And this is a Chiefs Hill Trail connection. And then you can see this is Zelly, who is sitting in that yellow chair, and she's a student at Wing Luke. Zelly was one of 5 kids who got their art selected to install there on the sidewalk. So hers was the mushrooms, and then we have a few more that you can kind of see pictures. And that was a project where Ashley and Lisa, who was on the team, worked with the art teacher at Wing Luke, so that all kids that were in her art class got a chance to submit art that was, and then 5 were selected to go in on the sidewalk. And this project included flights too. And so this is kind of just a cool little example of like a holistic project. Like sometimes we are able to put in a sidewalk and that's like all that we have purview to do. But this one, there was a lot more flexibility and like budget allowed so that it could be not just a sidewalk, but walking bike connection.
Did we lose City Hall?
Yeah, you all are muted at City Hall.
We're back on.
Somebody touched something. We're green again.
I somehow took over. My
room.
computer took over the room because my computer is doing its own program today.
Can you hear us now? Great. Okay.
It's so weird. Okay. Next slide. Perfect. So these are some additional projects we wanted to highlight that we've been able to implement through our Safe Routes to School, sidewalk repair, bicycle safety programs, including stop signs at Stevens Elementary School, crossing improvement at Ingram High School. I'm particularly excited about the one down at the very bottom left, which is the pedestrian railing installation at South Cloverdale to the new Concord Elementary School. And then we continue to work on the Northgate to Maple Leaf Neighborhood Greenway, which is creating bicycle access on low stress streets to school. So I think I'm preaching to the choir talking to this group about how fantastic some of these projects are in the community.
We just had a walkthrough
Okay.
months ago at Concord. We were
right
there.
there.
Yeah, so we're excited to see that around. Yes.
All right, next slide. And so continuing through our programs that we believe have made notable improvement for access to school is, we have our stairway maintenance program, which there's a picture to your left, which is stairway repair at Morgan Street. Again, if you have an opportunity to get a presentation on how we do stairway repair and rehabilitation, it's really fascinating. They use old railroad ties are used in some of this. So if you're a historical nerd like myself, it's exciting. And then just right out here, which is not necessarily near a school, but there's been new ramps installed, as well as part of the Madison Rapid Ride project, Rapid Ride G. And then there's at the very bottom is an improved crossing on Marinier Avenue South as part of the Route 7 work. So again, this is with both Rapid Ride G and the Route 7, these are part of our multimodal improvements, part of our congestion relief program, but it's creating access for people to transit. Next slide. And then last, these are our final programs. Transit spot programs are ones if you're ever waiting for the bus and you see tree pits filled in or shelters around bus stops, that's likely part of our transit spot program. There's an example on the top left of a tree pit on 5th Avenue, just out there. Obviously, one of our biggest accomplishments through the levy is the John Lewis Memorial Bridge. That's the pedestrian and bicycle bridge connecting to the Northgate Light Rail Station, which it's very rare to get to bring on a new bridge, and we're pretty excited about that. And then, more examples of new sidewalks as part of our Greenwood Ave North project. And then a crossing improvement at Interlake Ave North and Northeast 45th. And so for both programs, 25 and 26, so 25 is our new sidewalks and crossing improvements program, which falls under the congestion relief program. But I'm not sure how familiar you are with our pedestrian master plan and how it implements, but it's very overlapping with how we implement and prioritize our Safe Routes to School projects. There's some questions.
I'm just curious about the tree pit filling. Is the tree still there? What have you filled it with?
That looks like, that's a good question. That looks like Flexi Pave that we have filled it with. And so that's better for trees as they're growing. This might be many cities might encounter this issue, but we have a lot of fantastic tree canopy in Seattle, of which we want to increase. And then you start seeing that uplift on sidewalks, which makes it very challenging for folks who have mobility impairments. And one of our programs is sidewalk repair, but so the Flexi Pave helps with the health of the tree and can help with some of that uplift. Right. And then, so we wanted to talk briefly about our financial summary of where we are at the Levy to Move Seattle and what we are projecting for the end of the levy, which is the end of 2024. We've listed out all the programs for the levy investment of what we expect at the end of the levy. So if you want to, and we've highlighted all the programs in here, the ones that were folded throughout the presentation that we think of as contributing to safe access to schools. So there's about 507 million, we believe 507 in levy funding contributing to all these programs, with about 5.6 specifically contributing to the Safe Routes to School program. Right, the column in the middle is total investment. And so the Levy to Move Seattle in total will bring in about $930 million at the end of 2024. However, we use that money to leverage funding, federal funding for grants. We also use it to do the local match. And so our whole portfolio by the end is going to be likely around, in total, about $2 billion and about 1.2 billion for we believe safe access to schools. One of our local funding sources that's included in this is the SSTPI fund source, or the fund source we all were talking about with the traffic cameras. That is a significant contributor to our Safe Routes to School program implementation, as well as a few of our other programs listed.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
You might not be able to answer.
Yeah.
About all the matching grants. And,
yeah.
You know, maybe grants for received because you have other investments.
Yeah.
So not necessarily like matching. How much of those additional funds are contingent on that levy? How much do you think would be like? Well,
oh yeah. So
helping.
I'm going to give you a maybe I don't think I can answer as specifically as you'll need, but we project to get about $401 million in grants by the end of the levy, and those are all falling in these levy programs. So we needed those levy dollars for that local match to be able to get those federal dollars and partnership dollars. I can't speak. So that answer your question. Like we wouldn't have.
You wouldn't have that program
right
to get the money for if it was the levy.
Right. The levy is about 20 to 30% of SDOT's annual budget, and so it's important for us for getting grants for things that, like you mentioned, need match. So it's something we think about it as like it's 930, but we've been able to leverage that 930 to then be able to make it almost $2 billion portfolio, including those grants and local match. So, yeah. And I think any other questions? This is probably our most technical content dense slide. We can come back to it at the end as you mentioned.
Transportation operations.
Oh yes. So that is things like our crosswalk repainting, as well as our replacing signs. And this is summarized over the full 9 years. So next slide. Next slide. Oh, so this is just a snapshot of what we've already talked about what our accomplishments are through second quarter of this year for the levy. You know, we've added 64 miles to the bicycle network. That includes protected bike lanes and neighborhood greenways. We've added 130 new crosswalks, 78 spot repairs on bicycle routes, over 1,600 curb ramps upgraded, 210 new blocks of new signs repaired, and then 177 safe routes to school projects and more to come, and then improvements for people biking and walking along major transit corridors. And one thing I like to think about as we're coming to the end is like reflecting back, like what wouldn't have happened if we had had the levy. And I don't know how many of you have been in Seattle for a long time, but I've been here for a little while, and it's amazing, like as you move around the city, how things have changed. Next slide. I think that might be it. Yep, thank you. I want to open for questions, and I don't believe my email is on this, but I'm always happy if I can't answer a question or something comes up. I work with a lot of great people with a lot of knowledge, and we can connect you to get those questions answered.
So there's a new levy coming on the ballot.
Yeah, so we are working with the mayor's office, in collaboration with the mayor's office, to start thinking about what a new funding package is going to look like. And so we're looking at all of SDOT's work as a whole and seeing what opportunities we have to connect to like other revenues within the city, because we have things like the school speed cameras, but we also have things like vehicle license fees and gas tax. And we're looking at kind of our whole portfolio and what we can tie what work to what, and looking what our different options are. So likely there'll be a levy on the ballot within the next year or so. But it's an active collaboration between SDOT and the mayor's office.
And are you looking for what types of sort of commitments, public commitments you would be making as part of that levy request?
Yes, we're looking at what we accomplished, what worked and what didn't work with our current levy. We believe we're on track to meet 27 of our 30 goals that was listed in the legislation, but like it's been, it's not a joke, but it's very real. It's been a journey. You know, it's been a wild 8 years with COVID-19, the West Seattle Bridge closure. And so we're looking at how we had to handle like those pitfalls along the way with our current levy and how we frame that up for the future. You know, safety continues. And the Seattle Transportation Plan that is currently out and receiving comment, and I recommend that everyone go in and make comment as they're able. But looking at what's coming out of the Seattle Transportation Plan and what values are identified in there, and what we're hearing from community, and using that to frame up what we would recommend be part of that next levy package. If we move forward with a levy next year, in the past, like with the levy to move Seattle, the mayor's office released their package in collaboration with the SDOT, and then underwent some public outreach in terms of what would be included in that plan, and then it went to city council, and then they also heard public comment and made their changes to it. So we are definitely looking at where we have funding needs and where as a city, like with our values around safety and equity, kind of what that looks like moving forward.
Yeah, I guess I was getting at, is there anything from this commission in terms of statements that you'd like to be able to make, right? In terms of school safety improvements. That by the end of, by the end of this, we'd like to be able to say, right? Because it's a beautiful promise or beautiful commitment. Like, hey, we're going to get to every school.
Yeah.
We're not going to do everything. We're not going to do everything at every school, but we're going to get to every school, right? It's a beautiful thing to be able to say.
Yes. I mean, like if you have, as a committee, have a recommendation of what, like how you would prioritize new funding for, if you wanted it to be for schools, if you wanted it to be in certain areas, like, yeah.
I mean, I got an idea. So we just have this great school streets program. It's brand new, right? But we don't have any physical markers that for these school streets. And this could be an opportunity for a new item that could be really fun, like pencil-shaped bollards. I've seen these online. You know, something that's really visible and enriches the community.
Yes.
FYI, we're making 3 of our temporary school streets permanent. In this, the plan is for them to go permanent this coming year. And we're looking at a pencil bollards. But yes, agreed. Would love to spread it across the city.
Yeah, and I would say like where we are in, you know, for government, we move at a pace that is sometimes slow for everybody else. And at this point, we're still like looking at what values we want to incorporate in this next piece. But I do think there'll be ample public outreach in next year to like talk about what is included. And this is my personal recommendation that like as you think about it, how like we all on paper agree on likely the same things, like safety and equity are a high priority. It's important to have kids have access to school. And how can you like as we're thinking about the next levy, think about how we can hold SDOT accountable to what we're asked, but also like give flexibility for like new and emerging like treatments and technology, like the school streets, like how. So that's something as a planner and someone who managed our current program that we are grappling with, and I would recommend just considering as you think about that.
So there's one more point I was going to ask. I know that there's a lot of frustration right now among some, you know, the town metro is struggling to staff all its routes, and then at the same time, planned bus rapid transit lanes are so slow, delayed years when like really we're talking about pain, right? So these are kind of twin frustrations that I think a lot of people are feeling. And I guess I have 2 things I want to ask, you know, is because Metro's not nested in the city, right? So this seems like it adds a layer of difficulty when you're planning these things. And so is SDOT, you know, looking at handling that differently in the next levy to try and smooth that and be more successful there? And then also I just want to say, this is a real issue for older students, middle and high schoolers, and SPS has been looking to reduce their transportation deficit, partly by leaning more on the existing Metro service, which makes complete sense. But Metro service is not very good for many high schoolers. So as we're looking at, you know, how is that component more successful in the next levy? Like, explicitly getting students' needs in the discussion from the start would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'll pass that back to the PM. And again, I think there'll be opportunity for input, and we're not quite there yet. I just want to manage expectations. Yes, we are working as we think about our next funding package, which will likely be a levy, but not guaranteed. That we are thinking about how we can work with our partners. Bus service is something that we currently do support through our Seattle Transit measure. We don't support it through our current levy, and we're looking at how. So we do pay for bus service, but again, like they're having issues like bringing on people, and so that is something as we make our commitments, we think about what we can control versus what is controlled by others. And one of the and if I'm getting into more details than you all want, let me know. But in our current levy, some of the places that we can't achieve our goals are a couple of places where we are dependent on external partners, where we thought something was going to be happening and then it wasn't, and we're not going to say, oh, it's fine because like it was up to somebody else. We're calling that like, no, we can't do that. An example is the Graham Street infill station for light rail. We had earmarked as part of our current levy $10 million to support that construction, but then Sound Transit schedule pushed that beyond our current time frame, so it doesn't make sense to do that. But so we are thinking about how we work with our partners in terms of what we commit, so that we can meet desires, but also like make it achievable.
But then getting back to the painting of the bus lanes, which is in SDOT.
Oh yeah, that's totally
right?
Yes, that is in our purview. Yes, and that's something we're looking at timelines with how Metro's funding is, thinking about with our next package, how it takes a long time to get grants, and how like one thing that one of our big projects, like the Rapid Ride J project, which connects the University District down to downtown. That is probably going to be the last project that finishes for the levy. It's starting construction next year, but it's going to go into way beyond 2025. And how that project has been going on for a while, and we're leveraging like over 60 million in federal dollars. And so thinking about, as we are talking, there's ways we can speed things up, but also thinking about how when we talk to the public that we're setting realistic expectations about how some of these programs projects take a long time to implement. But I hear you that like some things could move faster depending on what the project is.
Well, we need to
start.
Yes, it's okay. We're just running behind. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm always happy to talk about this, happy to meet with all of you, and I can share I'll drop my email in the chat if I can figure out how to use WebEx properly so that everyone can have access if they have any questions.
Would you mind sharing your
the deck?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Also, we're going out for coffee, just like down there after this. So hang around.
I might be able to.
I can figure you out.
So really quick, because we had to skip over that. SDOT update. I don't know, Diane, if you're able.
Can you hear me now? I just changed my audio. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, Splash. Next.
And done.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It works now. Awesome. So sorry about that, guys. I'm not sure what's going on. Oh, okay. Here we go. Hi. Sorry about the whole mess this morning. I'm glad that it worked out. So my updates have mainly been touched on already, but one reminder I sent an email is that the STP draft is out. And so we have an opportunity as a committee to provide some feedback as a group, which they would love to have back by mid-October. And then individually, of course, you can log on and submit individual feedback. So that's just something that, those deadlines are going to sneak upon us faster than we know.
And we do have one meeting, we have our October meeting in which Radcliffe is going to present, and we'll be able to, form hopefully a cohesive thought as a committee.
Yeah, and he was hoping that maybe if we plan to kind of generate a letter or have some written feedback, that would happen before that meeting, just so that they can incorporate it. That's ideal in his mind, just to give you that.
Okay.
But yes, that's a great reminder. And then also I was just going to share about our School Streets program, which is expanding. very exciting. We have 2 new school streets. They're both in West Seattle. One is at the new West Seattle Elementary campus. It's along 31st Avenue Southwest, so it's a pretty long school street. We have some other safety improvements along that corridor as well, which are great. And then the other school is a private school in the White Center area called Holy Family Bilingual Catholic School. And they have a school street as well. And then, as Sarah mentioned, we're moving forward with 3 permanent school streets. So those are going to be treatments that are very similar to the Stay Healthy Streets gateway treatments, where there's concrete bollards or cylinders with signage and paint delineating kind of extended curb, and then the big difference between Stay Healthy Streets and school streets is that we have an opportunity to engage with the community, with the school community around art in the street, which is very exciting. So that's moving forward at Whittier Elementary, Genesee Hill Elementary, and Emerson Elementary. So we have that in the works for 2024. And then we have 13 total participating school streets this year in their normal sort of temporary form. And then the other thing is that Always Stops have been going in a number of schools, well, oftentimes before the start of the school year. So that's been great. We can share some photos of those with you. And I think that was it on that. Yeah. So I don't know, Sarah.
Can I extend a wholehearted thank you from the Adams Elementary community for the Always Stops and like all around the school. It's amazing how slow I drive now. No, it's great. It's great.
That's awesome.
And people are really excited about it.
Great. That's great. Yeah, we've been hearing really great feedback from all of those schools where Always Stops have kind of hit every intersection and made a big difference.
But it's
so
good
that's
to share that kind of thing, because I also do hear feedback of like, oh, this stop sign is taking up parking, things like that, you know, because you're supposed to park 30 feet back.
Yep.
And so it is kind of amazing what you hear. So thank you for also sharing the positive and with the school community too, because we get grumbling for sure.
Exactly. I figured people make sure that you hear their opinion if they're not happy, but it's hard to get people to share if they're happy.
Yeah,
so
I appreciate that.
People are really happy about those. I hear it a lot.
Great.
Nice. All right, that's it for me.
Okay.
Do we have time where I could add a tiny bit to that? 2 things.
Sure.
One is Walk and Roll to School Day is on October 4th. And so especially looking at you parents with kids currently in SPS, or if you have a school that you're just particularly involved in, if you wanted to lead a walk to school event at your school, Brooke, and I can support you and Diane. So Diane is running our package program. A lot of you heard about this last spring when we, Diane streamlined our packages, made that where we supply schools really easily, just like with a request form with what they need for a walk or bike to school event and other things, like if a school wanted to set up a bike bus or a safety patrol.
What date is it?
October 4th, first Wednesday of October. And so now would be the time for you and your school communities to request those packages so that we can get it to you in time. Marnie, yes, Brooke and I were just coordinating on this, on getting the word out within SPS. I think we're going to get it into the school leader communicator for this coming round, which goes out to all principals and assistant principals.
I did submit what
Sweet.
you. Yeah.
Okay, great.
And I also think it could be included as a news item, right? With public affairs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you think like the news brief that goes to all staff?
Sorry, I'm home with COVID. I think if we send it to public affairs, like to Beverly Redmond, and Brooke, you and I could talk about this. I think they can decide how they want to put it out there, because it might even be something that the superintendent wants to send a message out about.
Great. Yeah, go
that
ahead.
Would be ideal.
Yeah, loop me in, Marnie, on what the next steps would be for getting that out. I'm happy to help out. I just don't know all the processes yet.
If you could send me any of the graphics or announcements or anything like that, and then I will send an email and CC you.
Great.
Yeah, we can talk real quick about this.
Great.
Thanks,
This is
Marty. Sorry, you're
kind of out of order, but I was really excited to see in the Garfield High School mass message to parents, a little plug for being a crossing guard at local elementary schools. I was like, yeah, way to cross market. So that's awesome. And I'm sorry you're sick, Marty. That's no fun.
Thank you.
Can I also add, Diane and I have been communicating quite a bit. The principal of James Baldwin reached out asking for a stop sign at the intersection across from the entrance, which, as you guys may recall, was Northgate, and they built a new building on the former fields, and so now it's in a different spot. And Diane's been doing great work there, and it's deeply appreciated, but it does seem there's a little bit of a hole in the crossing guard cross the stop sign policy, which is, fantastic and doing such great work, but there's like this weird situation there where because one street is an arterial and the other is not, stop signs are not allowed, but they would be allowed if they were both arterials and in fact are present like in the same corridor where they're both arterials. And as we know, if they weren't arterials, it'd be allowed. So it looks like there's just a gap that needs to get cleaned up. And Diane said that this is already like underway and hopefully there will be, progress to report soon. So I just want to loop everybody else in that that's a thing. And, if it stalls out, we should just make a little noise about it, like in our next annual report, just to make sure that, these kind of leftover holes can get cleaned up.
Can I just also add that a reasonable timeline for this is like months out because policy updates take a really long time. So just for some reasonable expectation setting, I will report back as soon as I hear back on any updates, but it might be longer than you hope, just to say.
We were here through the last update. Yes. We know that one took years. So yeah, hopefully a little faster, but just wanted to let everybody else know that exists. Yes.
I think we'll pencil it in the calendar to follow up before we write the next annual report.
Yeah.
In the beginning of next summer. So I think we're all used to the marathon city.
Yeah. I did
Marlene,
have one more quick update, sorry. Or not update, but just we're going to be switching over to Teams. I hope that works for everybody, but WebEx has been causing a lot of issues. There's the audio issues. We just as standard practice, we use Teams, so it would be much easier for everybody. From a city side, I hope that works for everyone. Anyone have any issues with that?
Would you change city policy if we had issue with that? Okay.
But we were using WebEx because it was better for Lee. So if someone didn't want to use it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, sounds like it's good for everyone. Great, thank you.
Okay. Marlene, you had a question? You unmute.
Did not catch the question that Mary Ellen, the street and the school that she mentioned. I didn't
It was
catch the name.
at James Baldwin, which is the new name of Northgate Elementary, which just just opened their new building that had been under construction for a couple of years.
And which streets?
It's at First Avenue North and North 120th.
Yeah, New Northeast.
And they need a four-way stop, but there's a residential street involved.
It's the stop sign policy doesn't allow it in this situation because one of the streets is considered an arterial. But if both were an arterial or neither were an arterial, then it would be allowed. And there are stop signs near it in those conditions. So, it's another one of these. It's just right at the front door. And when the principal asks, and it seems like, sure. And then the answer is this kind of labyrinthine, like, if this, then that. But no, it gets frustrating. Diane, with me expressing that frustration, and again, I really appreciate you, Diane.
Anything else from my staff?
The travel tally is ready, but maybe at the next meeting, go into it. It's on the webpage, though. I'll put the link in the chat.
Approval of minutes. Let's zoom through our July minutes. Dana, would you be sharing your screen?
One second, I don't have that up. If somebody else has it up right now, that'd be great.
I'm opening it and I'll share my screen.
Thank you, Sarah.
So let's run through the action items. Wait, can you scroll up? Yes.
August. This was.
We didn't have August.
Oh, right.
We had two presenters that had to cancel and.
Right.
Okay, so we had some issues with the website link not working. Dan, you and Elaine looked into it. I haven't tested it since.
Yeah, Aline looked into it and like, fixed it apparently, but I don't know. I think it needs to be tested from the outside. So if you can let me know if that's been fixed, that'd be great.
Okay. The presentation to City Council, not City Council, the Public Utilities and Transportation Committee of City Council. Yes.
The link still doesn't work. It takes you to link about fall recreation programs and the STP.
Huh, that's crazy. Okay, well, I'll let Aline know. Thank you.
Okay. Presentation was really good. Really got some really positive feedback. Mary Ellen and Margaret, do you have anything specific to say about it?
I was at City Hall and watched it, and it was amazing. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
I just thought it was well received. I was really, Councilmember Peterson's office was coordinating with us beforehand to make sure that they were up on the issues we were raising in advance. And so it seemed like that, the council members were paying attention and were already asked, had already asked for clarification of some of the points beforehand. So it seemed really productive.
Yeah, they really new feeling to have, instead of pushback or questions, be like, yeah, we're on that. And I was like, whoa, cool, new day, I love it.
Yes, I think we raised a lot of issues that they were hoping to put their weight behind, like the review of tickets, automated tickets. So that was just good timing. And we hope to have an opportunity to present to the SPS board. I don't know where those stand, but at some point, would love to. Yes, Marnie, you unmute.
Yeah, sorry. And I think I replied to this, but there used to be a subcommittee that would receive that report. So I think what we're looking for right now is to include that just in a regular board update rather than having it be a presentation to the full board.
Okay, how should we go about it?
I will make sure that Ellie Wilson-Jones, she coordinates all of that. It's been a while since I reached out to her about that, so I'll make sure she gets back in touch with you.
Thank you. Okay.
We've also, Mary Ellen and I, as the subcommittee, have been attempting to figure out how to talk to the state legislators about the issues that we've identified that would need to change at a state level, including, as referenced earlier in this meeting, the description of who can review automated traffic tickets, such as the ones in school zones or the bus paddle ones. So I don't know that we have a super solid plan, but we're working on it.
Okay.
And if anyone else in other legislative districts, because that's the easiest way to get someone's attention, wants to join the subcommittee, that would be lovely.
Looking at the next 3 action items. Oh, now we have closed captioning. Sorry, we touched them all earlier in the meeting. We just had the presentation about automated enforcement. We talked about the scoring rubric subcommittee and next steps. We just talked about the annual report. I'm sorry. Good to know. In our last meeting, we talked about a request that we had about an additional safeguard, cross guard location at Alki. And we said, yeah, Maryland,
well,
said.
See, I think that, you know, the marching orders was for Steven to ask Yvonne what she thought. And then actually we never followed up. So I'm just curious, Yvonne, what ended up being the decision there?
I'll talk to you about that when I get to speak.
All right. Okay. Franklin High School. Margaret, could you refresh our?
We signed on to a letter asking for better crossing conditions around Franklin High School. It was a sort of Seattle Neighborhood Greenways led, I believe, coalition of people prompted by an incident with a student age, I think, because it was in the summer, but whatever. So yeah, we did that.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments or corrections for the minutes? We'll need a motion to approve the meeting.
Motion.
Carolyn, had a motion. Who's going to second?
I second.
Great. All in favor? Any opposed? I think you're the only official member. Any voting members? But they were not in the meeting. I can't vote on that. Yes. Any abstention? Okay. Motion passed. Minutes approved. I feel like out of breath and it's like trying to catch up on that. Like, and then next item, the SBS update. Just want to make sure that everybody that needs to leave could leave on time. SBS update. And welcome, Brooke.
Thank you.
Yvonne, why don't you give us that summary now?
Okay, so this year has really been quite a challenge. I've had to shuffle and change things around a lot. So I'll just start from the beginning. Well, starting off this year, I lost 4 guards at Greenwood, Pathfinder, Genesee Hill, and Maple. I was not prepared for those. Those were shockers. So, and then Buellens is back at their regular location. I had 1 guard that was helping out at Broadview Thompson, and she moved over. So I have 1 guard there at 3rd and 105th at Buellens. But I still need more, obviously. Kimball is back at their regular location. 2 of the original guards decided to come back. And one returned to 23rd and Hanford, and the other went to South Hanford and Beacon. And then 1 guard that was at Madrona wanted to go to Kimball, so I took him off of the Madrona and put him over at Kimball because he's more needed over there at 23rd and Hanford. Bail times changed at South Shores, so now the guards will be covering both bail times for both South Shore and Dunlap, getting paid for dual post, whereas before they were on the same bail schedule. So they're happy about that one. West Seattle is back at their location, but the original guards are staying at their current post at Stanislaus and Highland Park, so there's no guards at West Seattle yet. 1 parent contacted Brooke to let her know that there's no guard, and yes, we know that. And but she stated that she's interested in being one of the guards, so I'm going to set up an appointment to interview her. So that worked out good. Alki moved to Schmitz Park, and so I moved the guard up to 49th and Spokane Street. And he's already crossed. He said his average is about 150 plus that he crosses there, so it's massive. He's being well used. He did make a statement, though, that the crosswalk needed to be repainted. So they said that's in the works for next year. Mercer Middle School moved to OVA, and one of the guards that was there for Kimball decided to stay there and do that one at Beacon and Myrtle, but that took him away from the Alki. So that opened that post up at, Aki Karosi. And then haven't lost him yet, but I will be losing a guard at West Woodland on Marcus Street. And she said she'll stay until October, but stated that she was 88 years old and it's time to retire. God bless her. She's been hanging out there, but she did put up flyers and brochures for me, and even on their post right there. And yesterday a lady called about that position. So it says, I've gone through the online applicants and left messages, and one of them just called before the meeting here, and I'm going to call her afterwards. She happened to be a sister of one of the guards, and I gave all the guards information to hand out to friends and family, and so that's working too. I got a sister now, so we'll get her on board. And then I've got 3 staff that's cleared fingerprinting and are waiting to be staffed. They'll be at Whittier, Arbor Heights, and Concord when I get them trained, hopefully by the end of the month. And then I have 4 people that are set up for fingerprinting coming in next Wednesday to get that started. Oh, and yay, I got 1 new guard. Woohoo! and she's at Beacon Hill. I actually had staffed 3 people to be trained, and 2 of them backed out at the last minute, but I got 1 out of the 3, so I tried. Okay. So I sent out information about the open post to all the schools, and then I also contacted our public affairs here at SPS so they could get the word out. And I sent all the elementary schools brochures and flyers to put up and put in their newsletters. Okay. And I've also put out applications and brochures downstairs at SPS to get some spontaneous people just walking by that might want to be a crossing guard. So we're working on it. We're getting there. That's all I got.
Yvonne, it sounds like our map of which positions are open or closed is going to need quite a bit of, updating. Do you have a list you could send me just to, you could just send me, instead of summarizing all that, if you just have a total list of, position open or closed, I can just go through and check them.
Yeah, well, as of right now, I have 68 posts open. So
yeah,
that's quite a bit. That's quite a bit. So got a lot of work to do, but I'm on it. I'm trying.
Sure. Can you email me that list and I'll get the map updated?
Sure.
Thanks. 68. It's quite a bit more.
Thank you, Yvonne. I know Brooke, Marnie, Stephen, I don't know. I know Brooke is new school year. Everything is probably pretty hectic in your world.
Yeah, I don't have any updates for you, but I do want to open it up if anyone has any questions for me. Happy to share more.
Yeah, if you wanted to share, I am realizing I should have sent out there's a really nice bio about Brooke on the transportation webpage, and so I can send that out after this. But if you wanted to share a little bit of what led you to this point.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we have time for that? Is that okay?
Or we could chat after. And
I'm just realizing you asked, Radcliffe wants a letter if we're going to write it before our next meeting on October 20th.
Yeah, that's what Diane said. Yeah.
Okay. So do we have that means we need a subcommittee to put it together, and we need to officially vote on a subcommittee right now, or we won't have that opportunity, right?
That's right. Also, I kind of want to be able to have talk to him and have the presentation, have him react before we finalize any letter and have the committee.
Yeah.
It seems a little bit
Yeah,
backwards.
I think just having a draft, having some idea of what we want to say, just so that we're not
Okay.
starting from square one, right?
Yes, who wants to be in a subcommittee to review the STP and form some ideas? I'm happy to be there.
I mean, I started reading it. 1,300 pages. 100 pages.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Was that a sigh of you want to be on it,
I'd be
or
willing-
will you be?
Yeah, I can join it, but we need some other volunteers.
You're not really
Sarah?
selling it.
What do you
You're
think?
not really selling it.
Well,
it's a
I mean,
it's a draft.
SDOT folks made it 1,300 pages long and then asked
It's
for me. Like,
I'll volunteer.
Okay, great. Anybody
Who
from
else is-
SDOT that might had to read it, part of it already for the rest of their?
Who else is on the committee? I was copying things.
Oh, and me.
Noah and me?
Yes, can you clarify? Yes, Marnie, it's the Seattle Transportation Plan, their long-range planning for the next, 20, 50 years. Radcliffe is going to come and present in October, and the end of the time for public comments is the end of October. So we would like to start reviewing and formulating initial thoughts as a committee, so we could respond to it.
Is that part of the comprehensive plan? Is it a
Yes.
component of the okay? Yeah, I can.
there's
I
separate.
can
The comprehensive plan is separate.
Well, it's a land use, but they're also I mean, it's a SDOT version
yeah.
of the complex.
right, right. It's the sort of transportation side of it. Yeah, I'd be happy to be in. I think Brooke and I could be involved. I think that would make sense. Sorry,
Yes,
Brooke,
I think
I just told you.
That's great.
Yes, I think it'd be great to have, make sure we have SPS voice in there. Okay.
So what is the final membership of the committee for the notes?
Marnie and Brooke and yourself and Mary Ellen and me.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye. Well, it's hard to do it when half and half. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Well, I guess we need to make a motion. Well, the subcommittee is formed. Okay, and I'm happy to spearhead it. I'll send an email later today about it. Okay. I know it's a little early in the year and late in the meeting to ask for SPS updates about what was working and not working with the buses this year. But if we could have an update next meeting, that'd be great. I know things are probably like in the midst of. It's hard to have. There's no retrospective opinion yet.
I will just share that it's probably for everyone in the department agrees, probably one of the smoothest starts we've had in a long time. I mean, it doesn't mean it's absolutely perfect, but there's a great deal of optimism. So it's been a really good start.
Hey, Marnie, I directed a couple of people your way whose kids had gotten, misplaced on the first day of school, and I just wanted to let you know that they shared back that they really appreciated that you handled it directly and that it was, addressed effectively and comprehensively, and so I just want to share that feedback. That's deeply appreciated.
Well, thank you. That's the name of the game, and it's just so sensitive, and I'm always trying to raise that to everybody. You put your kid on a bus, you send him to school. That's your other heart out there rolling around on the road. So it deserves our full attention.
So the walk back and roll to school day is going to happen before next meeting. So I was hoping to talk about publicity and stuff, but it seems like it might happen after the fact. You're probably just reaching out to everybody in the beginning and introducing yourself. So it's probably part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you all are interested in getting any information or support for doing those at your schools and your communities, let me know. And we can kind of coordinate one-on-one.
We're running out of time. I really wanted to talk about how can we as a committee help support the classical name recruitment, but we'll have to table it and to talk about
My computer just
Yeah.
Okay. And the presentation policy. It's something that came out after our last meeting, but we had a presentation that was very interesting and almost 100% irrelevant to the work of the committee. We just want to make sure that we use everybody's time to the best and highest use. You know, that presentations are really tailored to the interests of this committee, that they come with a specific approach that is relevant to us. We don't want to waste presenters' time and our time looking at it. Margaret, do you want to have like an actual policy and wording around it, or do you want to just? And I'm sorry, I'm putting it out because you're the one who raised up an issue of like, let's have a discussion about it.
I mean, I would love to have a policy where people come to us when there's a, specific school traffic safety ask or follow up on an inquiry we've made. I personally, as you know, because I communicated sort of individually, I am in charge of outreach programs for the federal government sometimes, and you come up with a list of people and you present your slides, and so I get it, but also we have such a limited time and so much we're doing that I feel like we really need to be the ones to force people to only come when they really need to.
I have to go, so I'll see you later. Minutes are over.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Marilyn.
Okay, thank you, Marilyn.
I just have a quick suggestion, if that's all right. I wonder if we can ask people for their presentation slides beforehand. That's what we used to do at the bike board. And then it was really helpful to see, are they tailoring this to the school traffic safety committee, or is this just a general meeting? And that way, Noah, your job can kind of be like filtering those things right off the bat. And then if there's a question of whether or not a presentation might be useful for the group, you can send out the slide deck and say like, hey, do people want this presentation or not?
I think it's a great idea. And then it could also be on the agenda. Margaret, do you want to write like a 2-sentence policy suggestion that we could vote on next meeting? Great. Okay. Minutes are done. Let's adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for staying through the little bit longer meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.